All right. I am going to say that we are going to have stream issues tonight. I clicked the button and there was an extremely long delay from when YouTube actually went live from when I clicked the button. So hopefully everything's working. I'm turning around, the audio looks decent. So this is a completely unscheduled review. We have a subscriber, and he had subscribed to another YouTube channel. It's not this channel's place to usually promote other channels, just like other channels don't promote my channel. But in this particular case, there's a channel called Fretnot, and evidently every week they give a guitar away. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But from what I understand, every week they actually give a guitar away. One of our subscribers entered and actually won. And the guitar he won is a Donner. It's a DST550. And I've seen other YouTube channels review this guitar. My opinion, out of the blue, before we check it, watching other channels, you kind of get a feel for what it is or isn't. I'm going to make a guess before we do the review. It's going to be better than Leo James, and it's going to be somewhere in the Firefly category, like a decent Firefly. Firefly has had some duds, but for the most part, Firefly makes pretty decent instruments for the asking price. So I'm gonna put this right now at the beginning of the review, just based on what I've seen on YouTube, that this is probably going to be a Firefly level guitar. Hopefully, at this price point, it'll be a little better, because let's take a look at the Amazon listing on this guitar right now. And it is on sale for $279 right now on Amazon. And that is the guitar supposedly that's in the box. So we don't normally do, I guess, unboxings. I used to. But in this case, I figured, why not? So this is the box. And believe it or not, this was shipped from, I assume, Amazon to Fretnot. Same box. And then it was shipped from them to me. And I only see one spot that is poked through the cardboard right there. But other than that, the box seems like it's in pretty decent shape. And of course, it's already been opened once because they had the guitar out playing it. So of course, there's going to be 2 layers of tape. Sometimes when I look at that and I get things from Amazon, there's 2 layers of tape on it. I immediately assume, uh-oh, this could be a returned item. But since this has already had its daylight shining on YouTube, I kind of understand why it's already been retaped. Alright. Let's see how Donner does their packaging. And I deliberately did not watch Fretnot's videos on this. The only video that I watched from them was the video where they announced Steve as the winner. So I did not watch their initial unboxing or anything on this guitar. I didn't want to have an opinion beforehand, if that makes sense. So even though Steve's not unboxing it, he can live vicariously through me, and it's pretty cool. They actually sent him a little sticker. That's pretty cool of those guys. I'm not a subscriber to their channel, but watching the one video that I saw, it seems like a pretty cool channel. And it's YouTube at Fretnot1. So that's pretty cool. They gave him a little sticker. I like that. That means they care. So I'm assuming originally this looks like this was a wrap that went around the strings. So if you get this from Amazon, most likely this is going to be around the strings. The case itself looks like it has a piece of styrofoam at the top. And it does have this little corner piece right here that holds the gig bag. Then it has a support here. Then it is double corrugated. The main box is double corrugated. That's a thick box. And they've also put another layer of single corrugated. Now that's a double corrugated section there too. And in that section, there's more foam. And it's in a gig bag. I still think the styrofoam sarcophagus is probably a little better. But I would honestly say this has to be the best cardboard box packaging I've seen. And I'm not sure what this is, because this, like I said, it's already been unboxed. But there's some kind of cube in there. So we're going to keep all that stuff out for Steve. I want to make sure Steve gets the little fret knot sticker and everything, because he is the winner of the guitar. And that, you know, that's pretty cool. You know, so I want to make sure that he gets what he deserves from that channel. Those guys took the extra time to make sure they put the sticker in there, so I want to make sure he gets it. So here's the gig bag it comes with. It looks like right here we got a big pocket. Yeah, that light right there probably. This is a live review, guys, so let me move the light. Linnell says it's right in my face. There's no editing here. Okay, in this little baggie, it looks like we've got Create the Moment. It's a little donor thing. And then it looks like we have, well, this bar right here is for the truss rod adjustment, so it must have a spoke wheel adjustment. Here's the tremolo bar, and we have some Allen tools. So we're going to set that right there. And that's all that's in there. Feeling the zipper on the bag. It's okay. It does seem to snag a little bit. Okay, checking the main zipper. This one feels a little better. It's much smoother. Now opening up the gig bag, they have rewrapped the guitar. And this is the wrap that I like. It's not that, I can't explain it. It's a real soft polystyrene, but not like the bubbly stuff that tears easy. I actually really like this wrap that they use on the guitars. Now this bag here does not have the cradle for the neck. I'm going to put the guitar right there. And the padding on the case, I'm going to say it's about a 1/4 inch thick. There's not much padding. But it is a good dust cover, and something is better than nothing. But it is quite thin on the padding. Alright, we're going to put the case right there. And if you don't know, this is my favorite part. I like pulling the cover down for the first time and seeing the headstock. That's quite pretty. Roasted maple, it looks like. And see how this comes off? The other polystyrene wrap like sticks to the guitar. That just comes right off. Little things like that. I've reviewed a lot of guitars. This is probably our 60th guitar. I like that. Little things mean a lot to me. First impression, that is a really pretty grain on the back of that neck. Look at that roasted grain. It's quite sharp. Really like the color. It's like a really dark maroon red on the back. It's got some really large furls. And they've left the plastic piece on the back there. I don't know if it's still on the front. It does appear that it's still on the front as well. Okay. If you know the channel, yeah, we're going to really look at this guitar. We want to see what you're getting for, you know, what was the price again? Let's double check the price one more time. Now it's on sale, so normally it's $329. So right now it's on sale for $279. So for $279, that's with shipping. That puts it below the Firefly price point, because Firefly guitars are starting to creep up a little bit. Once you figure the shipping, the last two I've ordered were in the $300 price range. So a little cheaper on some models. It's right in the middle.
They want a close-up of the quilt.
A close-up of the quilt. And if you can't see it, there's a huge glue line right there. And I'm trying to move it back and forth to see if it morphs. And I hate to say it, guys, but there is zero morph in this top. What I mean by morph, a true top like this that has any thickness to it and finish, the top will shift. And this top, it hardly shifts at all.
Is it a hardtail?
No, it is a tremolo based. So it's a 2-point tremolo base, as you can tell by the rear cover here with the springs. So it's most likely an extremely thin veneer. When you do veneers really thin, like, you know, thin veneers, you lose the shift, the color shift. And like I said, it does it very, very little. And that can just be the thickness of the finish causing that. But it still looks pretty. But on these tops, I want to be able to move it. And I want to watch the figuring dance on top of the guitar. To me, that's what makes the figuring pretty. As you move it back and forth, the grain dances. And this guitar does not do that. But it's still very pretty. Like I said, it looks sharp. Alright, we're going to look at the general fit and finish of the guitar. Feeling the finish on the top, it's very smooth. It is definitely a urethane based finish. It does have that standard urethane feel. So this is most likely a standard catalyst version of urethane. If it is a 2K urethane, it's going to be a lower grade 2K urethane, because I can feel the drag in the finish. A 2K poly just feels butter smooth. It emulates a harder finish. But this finish does feel extremely smooth. And looking at it in the light, yeah, it's got a beautiful finish on it. And basically what I'm looking for is waves where it was unevenly finished, and the light as it goes across the top of the guitar, it just shines all the way through the guitar. I don't see a a flat or a spot where it gets bigger, looking across the horn. It's very sharp. On the back of the guitar now, I'm looking for glue lines since it's not a veneer, where I can see it where it's been pieced together. Nothing is popping out at me. I'm not seeing a transition line in the finish. So again, it's done extremely well. Feeling the back finish. Again, extremely good. Looking at orange peel. Again, there is zero. When I say zero, there is zero orange peel finish to this guitar. It is sprayed very well and polished very well. Looking at our cap here, well, it's not really our cap, there is a binding. And I want to look at how crisp the binding is to the body and if I can feel it. And I do feel the binding on the side. There are some errors right here. Right there. Basically from here all the way to here, there's an error. I can feel the step in the binding. Here it's good. And again, I feel the error in the binding right here. It's good from here all around. Then there's an error across here. Good through here. Another error in the binding right here. And this has a chamfer to it. It's not supposed to have a chamfer, but I can feel where they come in with a scraper like this, and it's not perfectly flat across the horn. They've angled that scraper to get that binding to get flush with the body. Is there anything wrong with that? No. We got to look at the price point of the guitar, but I am pointing it out. I have seen guitars in the $300 to $500 range that do not have this little issue right here. This issue right here feels like a sanding issue. This issue feels like a scraper issue. But the transition and the line break is beautiful. And what I mean by line break, I'm not seeing a flutter or a discolorization in the stain. The line is crisp. I'm just feeling an error in the prep. Now the break right here, I brought some tools out because I wasn't familiar with the guitar. There's some radius gauges, and there's really no sense in checking it because that's an 1/8 inch. They have broken the edge here, but it's probably 3/64. I don't think it's quite a 1/16, but the edge is broken. So it's a quite an abrupt break angle here. We do have an arm carve right here where they bent the veneer over onto the arm carve. And that's not a crisp break. And they've actually sanded and eased that into the body there. I actually like that better, especially with a, well, you have to with a veneer top. You can't have that crisp cut there because the veneer will crack and splinter. So you have to radius this into the body to bend that veneer. That's another way of checking a true cap guitar. If you have a straight line chamfer line here, that's a true cap guitar because you cannot do that with a veneer. Looking at the back, we've got the exact same break going around the guitar. We do have a belly carve here. And we've got a funny little cutout right here. I get what they're doing. They're trying to make this thinner So when you grab the guitar here, the neck feels thinner. It does. It feels thinner. I'm not much on the appearance, but it does its job. Here we can see where the body radius is here. See our cut on the neck? It does follow the body, but there's a good 5/16 of an inch flat spot on the neck. And the reason companies do that is it allows a little more error. The closer you get this point to the body, the less adjustment and error you can possibly have. But they did follow the contour of the body. So I will give Donner a plus on that one. I'm just not a big fan of the big flat spot. But it could be a lot worse. I've seen guitars come all the way up and then go to a point, and this whole section is flat. So they have cut this radius in to match the back side of the guitar. Feeling the screws here. They feel very nice, very large retaining furls here. So it's capturing a lot of meat with this bugle head screw into this furl, pulling the neck into the body. That's nice. I like those big furls. This edge, everything in here, just looking at it in the light, again, the finish on the guitar is incredibly smooth. It's well done. It's got a beautiful finish. Looking at our little cover plate here, it is down tight, even to the guitar. It's not bouncing. These three screws here are perfect. This screw, and this screw, I can feel the Phillips head. Is it scratchy? This one is sort of scratchy. These two are okay. This is 3-ply, so it goes white, black, and then to this pearl top section. So that 3-ply is going to make this very stiff. It's not going to have bounce like a single ply pickguard or cover. That's another reason why there's no deflection there. The 3-plies make that very strong. It's nice to see on a budget instrument. Looking at our top pickguard, again, it's 3-ply as well. It goes white, black, and then to this pearl. Again, it's very solid. There is just a little deflection right there. So I am going to assume that this guitar has what's called a swimming pool route, because that is bending in there and there. I could be wrong, but it appears by the deflection of this plate that this whole thing is routed out here. Feeling it? I don't feel anything sharp there. The chamfer feels good. I don't feel any missteps. Feeling our top of our screws. Again, this screw and this screw, I can feel the Phillips. Most likely that was caused by whoever put the screwdriver in. It slipped once on them, and it just causes a feeling on the top of the screw head. They're not stripped, but I can feel it. Now Donner here on these two pickups, they're using the exact same head that they used on the pickguard. I like that. But the two screws on the humbucker are different. So now we want to check it and see if it returns to 0. Pushing this way on the pickup stays slanted like this. You can see it's tilted down. If I push it forward, it does stop even. Checking our single coil. The center one's quite firm. The neck one has quite a bit of jiggle in it. And the top cover I see moving in relation to the poles of the pickup. So the poles are not moving, but the cover's moving. So that's telling me when they put this cover on, they didn't quite put enough hot glue in to secure this cover to the pickup. Because I can see right there, the cover is moving and the poles in the pickup are not moving. This one is not doing that. Oh, it is doing it on that side. So both single coils, the cover is loose to the actual coils. Looking at the humbucker, it's okay. And we have a volume, tone, and I'm going to guess that this is a coil split. Feeling that switch, there's no side to side jiggle. Switch feels okay. It has very little jiggle in it. Seems to have a decent engagement. Our volume knob feels very smooth. If you're a pinky player, you can definitely reach down and control this volume knob with your pinky very easily. Tone, I guess you can, it's kind of a stretch. The tone and volume on this guitar feel to have the exact same resistance. Sometimes they'll feel smoother down here, less resistance on the tone versus the volume. These two feel the same. And it appears we have a 5-way switch. Checking the 5-way switch, side to side jiggle, good 1/16 of an inch. But the positions, this way movement is very, very good. But it does have side to side movement. But the engagement feels good. I don't think you're going to knock that switch out of position playing it. Feels like a decent switch. Nice. Looking at our jack, again, a lot of times when I look at these, the radius of the plate does not match the guitar. This one's done very well. Screws feel good, nothing sharp. Looking at our bridge, I'm checking the screws on the bridge to see if I feel anything sharp. And I do feel them. I'm going to say that they would snag the sock, but it's not going to be uncomfortable to play. There's a couple right here that, so that's the little height adjustment screw. I do feel them. That would definitely put scratches. Would it snag the sock? Maybe. But it would definitely scratch it. Feeling the sides of the tremolo and the saddles themselves. Feeling the back. Everything else feels good. But I do feel the height adjustment screws. Here we have a bugle button. It's right on the end of the horn. Seems to be in the center. It's good and tight. This one seems to be in the center. Good and tight. The only thing I see finish-wise on the guitar is right here. And this is where this is seamed together as a book match. I do see a line there. So there is glue. There is a glue line there. Is it that noticeable? Only in certain positions. But I do see the glue line. Alright, let's look at our neck. Feeling our frets. Again, I'm going to say these frets would scratch the sock. Would it snag the sock? Probably not. I don't know. There's a couple sharp frets. Well, what I consider sharp frets. I'm very picky. I'm going to say there's a little bit of fret sprout on the top of this guitar. I feel that fret, that fret, that fret, that fret, that one, definitely that one, a little bit there, definitely that one, definitely that one, that one, that one. Yeah, a little bit of fret sprout on the top. Looking at the side dressing, they rounded the chamfer over to the top of the crown. That part's good. As far as the side of the fret going this way, they did very little. If that was hit with a dressing file, it was, and that was it. And then they hit this with sandpaper. I am going to venture to say that they used a block file, hit this thing at 90, hit it at 35 or whatever their chamfering tool is rated at, and most likely 80% of this work was sandpaper in the hand, like that. Because I'm just not seeing any side dressing whatsoever on these frets. I would say, like I say, 80% was done with sandpaper. Are they bad? No, I've seen worse. I've felt worse. I would rather have this than the ball end frets. And I know you guys are throwing popcorn at the screen right now. Everyone likes ball end frets. Ball end frets have some issues. They do. It's not the godsend of frets, guys. If they're done right, I think they're great. But they do snag strings sometimes. This type of fret, I can see the filling on the end for the tang. This type of fret very, very, very rarely ever snags strings. This you can clean up. Okay, a ball end fret, when you level and crown it, that's a very hard fret to redress the ends of and make right. A lot of people say, oh, I do it all the time. What's the end of the fret look like? Did you fix that ball end? Or did you just come in with a piece of sandpaper and knock that corner off? This is a far easier fret to do work on than a ball end fret, especially when you're doing leveling and crown work. So I would prefer to have this fret on any guitar, especially one that I was going to hot rod and modify. It would take very little work to bring these side frets up to a great level. They're not horrible. Feeling our fingerboard material to the neck. I do feel the transition. Is it horrible? No, it's not horrible, but I do feel it. How many people would pick up on that? I don't know. I'm very picky. That's something I check. I want to know how much sand time was done on the instrument. Yeah, I can definitely feel it. There's a ridge There's a ridge right across here, all the way down the neck. I don't feel it here, but starting about where my finger is, up, there's some sanding areas there. Look down it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that. The frets, even though that these are chamfered frets, the frets on the guitar are going. So these frets were pre-chamfered and then they were set. That may explain why this fret I don't feel, this fret I feel, that fret I feel, this one's really bad. That would explain why some of these frets are more obtrusive than others. Because if you set all those frets long and you trim them and you come back with your chamfering tool and you sand them back to the neck, it's not going to have a jog like that. And if it did have a jog, that meant someone sat there and just went like that with the tool in one spot. So I'm going to say that they were chamfered, pressed in, and then lightly cleaned. This one has two jogs, one here and one up there. And before you guys say I'm being too picky, it is still far, far better than any Leo James that we've had on the channel. So it's still far better than that. It is, even though these are chamfered frets, this is one of the, if I had to put it on a scale, it's one of the better Firefly ball end fret jobs. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm not used to seeing chamfered frets have a wave to them like that. So that's new. That's a new one on me. Feeling the back of the neck, I do feel the grain. This feels like a satin finish. I don't think that this neck would get sticky if you're a sweater. And it's definitely one of the necks that you could go over with some 2000 grit sandpaper and you could knock this down and just make it butter smooth. But I do feel the grain. Feeling the consistency of the finish. Right here, everything's good. I'm going to say the overall consistency is pretty good. Nothing is really jumping out. Do I feel some differences? I do. This up here is stupid smooth and soft and, I mean, perfect. This one's perfect. That one's perfect. Feel a little bit right there and a little bit right here. But I'm not going to call it out because I feel the exact same thing on the back of the neck. So we're looking for consistency. Is this smoother here? Yes. But all in all, it's very consistent. It's nicely done. Now, I'm not overly worried about throwing the guitar out of tune, but I want to check the tuners. I don't feel them having slop. They feel pretty good. I can't undo the locking nut, but I don't feel them when I pull forward and I go to move back. I don't feel a dead spot. Just a little bit. But at this price point, I'd say they feel good. Only time would tell on how well they hold up over time. We do have two string trees here. And these are just the bat wing type string tree. Looking at the cut of the nut. I do see some plastic coming through the back side of the nut. So I'm going to say so-so on the nut cut. We'll find out more when we check the first fretted note and the intonation. All in all, I'm going to say that's going to do it on our fit and finish. If you thought I was being picky then, now let's really check the guitar. Now it's time to see what the guitar actually is made out of. So I do have a cheat sheet here, and we've already kind of looked at the fret dressing, so we kind of did that. Looking at the top of the finish of the frets, there's a sheen to them, but I'm not going to say that these are finely polished frets. It almost reminds me of like a satin finish on them. Would they play in? Yeah, I think they would play in fine. They don't feel scratchy. But looking at the top of the frets, I do see tooling marks. On all the frets. But it appears that they've went over this with some really high grade sandpaper, maybe some 2000 grit, 2500 grit, because all the marks are extremely fine. And like I said, they feel smooth. So we're going to say that the fret finish on the top is decent. It's not glass smooth. I think I've said that before. Most people would prefer a fret like this over a super slick fret. Okay, what's next on our list? I got my sheet right there. We're going to check neck relief. So I'm assuming since this is a Strat, it's going to be 25.5. Now, this does not mean that the frets are level. What we're doing is we're checking the level of the fingerboard. Okay? So if they didn't get the neck wood perfectly straight and they leveled the frets, the top of your frets can be level and the wood will show relief. So keep in mind, everything is contingent on something else, but we are checking the relief of the fingerboard. So I'm going to use the light behind it. Okay, as of right now, the neck, I'm going to say it's got about 0.5 millimeters of relief, maybe 0.6. And if you want to do it this way, to the fret, I'm going to say that that's probably over a millimeter or at a millimeter. I don't like doing it this way because as you push on the fret here and engage it, it's a piece of metal. It does create an arc. So this isn't an extremely accurate way of doing it. I'm going to say it's a quick and dirty way of doing it. So I'm going to say that this is at least 1 millimeter 0.6 to 1 millimeters of relief from or whoever set the guitar up, that's what it's set at. Okay, now let's look at the frets themselves. Now, since this is a live review, guys, I can't go into squirrel mode, but this does give me the opportunity to kind of go over some things. Been picked on quite a bit on the way I check frets, and again, I'm gonna keep saying this until I get a response from people. If you're doing this, there's no guarantee that you're actually checking the frets. If you have a high fret here and here, the fret rocker can glide across those two frets and not even ride on the third fret. You have to set your fret rocker on the frets and apply pressure to either end of the fret rocker. You have to. Now, yes, you can move it back and forth between the strings, but you need to gradually apply pressure like this to properly check your frets. Does it take longer? Yeah, it takes a lot longer. But you'll end up with a much more accurate reading of your frets. So we're going to start at the top. And basically I'm picking it up, I'm putting it right on the string, and I'm sliding to the center and sliding to the next string, and I'm pushing back and forth on the rocker. And we're checking above the string. So if you're new to this channel, we are giving a guitar away just like what these guys did. We're giving away a Fender Player 1, and you only have to be publicly subscribed to this channel, and then you need to go to the Discord channel and go to the opt-in room and say, I want to be entered in the guitar giveaway. And if you win the guitar, I will set the guitar up to whatever specs that you send me. So your action height, stuff like that, I will set the guitar up. We are actually going to review that guitar shortly and check the frets and everything on that guitar. If we find anything, we're going to fix it and then send it to its new owner. So far, so good, guys. I really like the comment of people saying you have to have the neck perfectly straight to check your frets. You're spanning such a short distance that, 0.6 millimeters of relief across this whole neck translates to really small amounts between the frets. So the neck would have to be so far out of whack before the fret rocker would pick up neck relief. The guitar would be unplayable anyway. And if you watch my channel and other YouTube channels, you'll notice sometimes on the 14th fret, people will deliberately put fall off on the frets. We do that. We put fall off on it. But if you go back and check it with a fret rocker, you won't be able to detect that fall off once it's sanded in there and then blended into the other frets. You won't detect it. If you're detecting fall off, someone has really aggressively put some fall off in the frets. funny, certain frets that I do this feel a little slicker than other sections. Like when I slide the tool. It doesn't seem to have a consistent feel across. Some area, like right there, that is stupid slick right there. Again, I think that this guitar is going to play in very well. Going this far without finding an issue and just feeling how the fret rocker feels going across the frets, I'm going to say that this guitar would play in extremely well. Thought there was one there, but right there. So that's our 14th fret below our high E. And I'm going to say most people would not call that, but it does have just a little bit of a rock right there. Again, most techs would not call that spot, but I am feeling it right there, and it's gone above the E. And I can just barely feel it where the E would rest on the fret. Would that ever cause an issue? No. You could slam the action, that spot's not going to cause an issue. I'm just pointing it out because it's there. I get to this point and my thumb starts giving me a fit from pushing and holding the fret rocker. I'm actually applying quite a bit of pressure like this to roll the tool. We have a spot right here. This spot is more noticeable. So above our B, so it picks up between the E and the B, going up, still there, still there, still there. And then it disappears under the G. So that's our 16th fret. It's not a bad spot, but that is a spot. Again, I'm just pointing it out. Here we have on the 17th, below the high E. Now when I shift it up right there is because between the E and the B, on the 16th we had a problem. On the 17th we got a problem, but it's on the below the high E. So that is repairable if you wanted the guitar to be perfect. If I slid up between the B and the D and it was there, that would be a low fret. You would have to file all the frets. But well, before I say anything, let's go all the way up. Yeah, that's okay. If you wanted to repair that, you could. It's just right there. and under the E. So that's technically 3 spots right now. We're just going to say 2, the one I'm being very picky with. Oof, that, well, there's a bad one. That one's real bad. Above the high E. So from under the A string all the way up to the top of the low E. Wow, there is something. Wow. You can probably actually see the fret rocker moving. That's how much that's off. I'll move up 1. Wow. Yeah, that one's really bad. And it's I'm gonna say it's really bad because it's not it comes right out from underneath the A to the low E, and it gets that bad in that amount of distance. So that's spot number 4. Spot number 5 right here. A little bit of rock above the B string. Right at the B and right above the B. And again, high E from the high E center to the bottom. Good there. Well, it was doing really good, guys, but then it kind of fell apart on the high end section of the neck. Again, right there. Again, right there. So that one's from the A all the way between the D and the G. And again, above the high E, 22nd fret. Right. Again, at the A string. All the way down past the D and the G. Still at the B string. Center of the B string. So the 22nd fret all the way across. Well, it was good to about right here, guys. So there's some issues in this section of the neck. Is it horrible? The spot up here is really bad on the high E, but most likely when you're going to be pulling down on that string anyway, I don't know if that one would necessarily cause a problem. The 21st fret, yes, that one needs to definitely be corrected. That's going to influence the amount of sustain the guitar can have when you're playing leads. I don't know how to judge this one. It was so good up top. I'm just going to go by what I normally say, guys. It's got 5 bad spots in it. So, in my opinion, I hate to say it, not good. We've had guitars on the channel with $200 that don't have any high or low frets. This has no low frets. It's really close in here. There's some finagling going on between those 2 frets that I said. It's close, but it's fixable without redoing the whole neck. 21st fret all the way across. First thing I'd do with that one is try to reset the fret. Just tap it all the way across with a caul. Make sure the fret is set properly and then double check it. The rest of the spots, most likely you're just going to have to go in there with a fret kisser and touch them up and then repolish the frets if you wanted it perfect. Would they cause a problem? I don't know. Well, we'll play the guitar, see what it feels like. So that's going to do it on our checking the neck. I do want to give you some measurements on the neck, so we're going to loosen the strings here. Because either way, we got to retune this instrument. So let's loosen the strings here, get you some. And if you're tuning in wondering why this guy is spending so much time on a fret rocker, we are not a demo channel here. That's not what this channel is here for. This channel is here to offset some of the other reviews that are on YouTube. And I've saw some pretty funny ones this week. I saw 3 YouTube channels trying to explain why a company wouldn't hook up a push-pull knob. Really? Why didn't they do it? Because they farmed it out to a Chinese company and no one double-checked the first run, and they produced a bunch of them. So the company had to come up with an excuse. Well, if you want to do it, it's set up for it. No, the parts were in the guitar. They messed the guitar up, and none of the channels wanted to admit it. I'll say it. You messed up. It's got a push-pull. You wire it. Why would you put a push-pull and have a dual-cool pickup and then not wire it? Because someone at the factory missed it. And no one checked any of those guitars. That's the, I hate to say it, guys, a lot of, if you find a good, inexpensive guitar, great. It goes by production run. That's why I always tell people, I reviewed this Firefly on this production run. Please let me know how the next production run is. Because these smaller companies go through employees. It's not the same people there doing it. And every time they retool for a different guitar, it's a different guitar. When they retool to make that guitar they made 4 or 5 months ago, it could be exactly the same. It may not be the same. I try to stress that to people. So don't fall for the YouTube hype, guys. We're here to give you honest product reviews. So far, I'm liking the guitar. At the first fret, neck thickness, we have 20.55. Don't misconfuse my pickiness for dislike. I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose from reviewing Donner, however you want to pronounce it. I've wanted to review one of their guitars for a long time. I've heard good things about Donner. So far, I'd say the guitar is decent. At the 12th fret, we have 22.19. That's our neck thickness. Looking across our nut, just make sure we're at 0. At our nut, we have 41.83. At the 12th, we have 51.76. And then at our very last fret, we have 55.56. So there's your neck specs. Did not look on Amazon, but looking at the neck, it looks maybe a 14-inch radius. So I do have some radius gauges here. And look at that, I actually picked my 14. Let's see what we got. Wow. Okay, well I'm way off. And let's see if this is a compound radius neck. It's much flatter. That's a 14. I'm not even going to check a 15. Let's go to a 16. Maybe I'm reading it backwards. Probably am. Yep, I'm reading it backwards. See? You only get this with a live review, guys. Let's see. Here's a 12. Maybe it's a 10. This might be a 9.5, guys. It's been a while since I've seen a 9.5. Let me go right to the 9.5. I actually see a little darkness on the ends. Here's a 7.25. No. Let's check a 10. No. It appears to be a 9.5, guys. I think what I'm seeing here on the ends is just sanding error. It's tight in the center, and I do see a little bit of black on this end and a little more on this end. But I'm going to call that a sanding error because I put the 7.5 on it, and I could definitely see that that wasn't right. And again, it's really good in the center. See just a fraction there, but at the top I actually see a gap. Yeah, that's a sanding error in the top. So on this side of the neck, they've applied a little more. They were probably sanding like this with the radius block, and that's applied more pressure to this side of the fingerboard, and it's taken the radius just a fraction out of spec. So I'm going to say 9.5 on that. And I think we're done with the neck. Imagine that, guys. This might be the first review that we've checked everything. Looking at this cut on this nut, it's not too good. Let's plug the guitar in, and let's see what we got intonation-wise. And first fretted note. That's going to give us a ballpark idea on how they set up the frets. And we're just going to do a standard 440 tune. Get it right here for a second, guys. I guess that's why a lot of people like the standard videos. You don't sit there and necessarily watch the guy tune the instrument. But with reviews like this, you get to see the person's first reaction. Hard to see my tuner. That string feels strange. It's a good time to actually test the tuners too. Get it up to tune, I might recheck the relief on the neck. Wow. Again, I'm just getting it close, and we're going to check the relief one more time. Wow, this thing is really moving. That shifted so much I thought it had a floating bridge on it. Went down a whole half step. This is, well, it does have a floating bridge. Oh, only in a live review, guys. I'm thinking it's a hardtail. I'm like, why is this thing moving that much? But that would explain it. See, I do have a squirrel brain. Everyone says that, oh, Avery doesn't have a squirrel brain. I'm sitting there going, why is this guitar shifting that much? Because it has a floating bridge. That's why. Been a long day, guys. But I know Steve is watching. And when he saw that this guitar got here, he was like, oh, I hope he looks at it. I hope he looks at it. This is a very small channel, guys, but I can honestly say the people that watch my reviews and come to our live streams, they're good people. They're honest people. They're people that want to know the truth on these instruments. And that's what we're trying to do here. Alright, now that the instrument is at 440 tune, want to double check it one last time. 25.5. And it's almost the same. Double check it this way. Yeah, it definitely needs a truss rod adjustment. It did pull the neck just a little bit more, but it's not horrible. And before someone says something about laying the guitar down this way and checking the intonation, if you tune the guitar this way, you check the intonation this way. If I tune the guitar this way, I could check the intonation this way. If I pick the guitar up, it's not in tune anymore, but it's only a couple cent out. Changing that tune a couple cent is not going to throw off your intonation. When you retune the instrument in the upright position, you'll notice the intonation will be fine. So, we used to get all kinds of people comment, you never tune and check your intonation with the guitar laying down. Why? It's relative to the position of the guitar laying down. It makes no difference. Just make sure that when you stand the guitar upright, that you retune in the upright position when you're playing it. Especially if you're playing with others. If you're not playing with anybody else, it really doesn't matter. You're going to be out a couple cent across the board. Even your intonation. It's moving around quite a bit, guys. Okay, if you're unfamiliar with the channel, we go through and we check the first fretted note of an instrument. Okay, hopefully you can see that here. So there's our E. And it's very difficult for me to hold the tuner and then also check the first fretted note. This is why dual cameras are nice when we do the actual other type reviews. Can you see that tuner in the camera, hun? Yes, you can. I can see it in the screen right here. Alright, there's our E. I'm going to lean forward so I can see it. First fretted note. There's our F, and you can see that it is a fraction sharp. There's our E, and it is falling off, so I'm going to retune it. Yeah, the nut on this guitar is not cut very well. Alright, first fretted note. There's our F. Now since our E is proper and holding, you can see our F went up just a little bit on the sharpness. E on the 12th. You can see our intonation is definitely sharp. It's always better if you're going to be off on your intonation, be on the flat side. Flat is a little more pleasing to the ear. There's our A first fretted note, and our A sharp is sharp. A on the 12th. And our A is sharp as well on the 12th. There's our D. D first fretted note. That's superb. That's about as good as you ever are going to get a first fretted. These are incorrect instruments. They just are. These aren't true temperament, instruments. They're straight frets. So to be that close, that's really good. Let's check our 12th. And our D is sharp on our intonation. Adjusting the D back, getting the intonation right, I'm pretty sure that first fretted note would be spot on once you got the intonation right. Alright, let's tune up our G. There's our G. G first fretted note. And our G sharp is sharp. Not bad though, but it is sharp. Open. It's falling off. Let me tune it. Yep, it's sharp. 12th. And the G is sharp on the 12th as well. Here's our B. B first fretted note. And our C is sharp, but again, that's pretty good for this style instrument. That's pretty good. B on the 12th. And our B is sharp. Here's our high E. High E first fretted note. And our F is just a fraction off. It's pretty good. High E 12th. And our high E 12th is sharp. So I think once you get the intonation on this guitar correct, it is sharp. It definitely needs to be set. That's really going to help your first fretted note and all your open chording. It's going to sound a little better. But the intonation on the guitar definitely needs to be set. Okay, what's next on our thing? We need to do pickup readings because everyone wants to know what these pickups are doing. Let me get my meter. Actually, we can unplug this one. And I'm using the Proster. It's an inexpensive meter, but it does allow us to check the Henrys of these pickups. Because I like to pretend I live in the UK, and we're going to start at 20k ohm. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll try to hold it right there for this setting. So that's our humbucker, volume's up, tones all the way up. Looks like we got 7.70. Let's flip that switch. Now we have 15. So in the up position, that is humbucker, and that seems to be splitting it to the single coil. Humbucker. In our second position, which I'm assuming would be these two pickups, we have 3.16 in humbucker mode here. And if we go to single coil, that gives us 2.64. And our third position is going to be our center single coil. We have 3.94. Fourth position, like a Strat, these two pickups, 1.98. Then our fifth position, which is this pickup, 3.91. So now, I know we just went over that whole thing, but I want to check Henry. So I always check my Henrys based off my ohms. So we are in the humbucker mode on the single. We're at 15. And 4.84, that's 1/3 almost exactly. So must be a little bit of copper on this pickup. So we're going to check 20k ohm again. We're going to split it. Got 7.70. 20k ohm, 6.62. That's still reading good. So going to this position, humbucker to single, 20k ohm, we have 3.16 on our Henrys, 1.27. If we split it, it'd be two single coils, 2.64. Henrys, 1.04. Center position, 20k ohm is 3.94. Henrys, 1.56. So they seem to be reading out pretty decent. This position, these two single coils right here, we have 1.98, 20k ohm. Checking our Henrys, 0.82. Third position, top neck position, 20k ohm, 3.91. Checking the Henrys, we have 1.55. Reading wise, these pickups should sound decent to my ears from what I've seen. But keep in mind, guys, these are readings. You will either like the way they sound or they don't. But I always tell people, check your guitar, get used to seeing certain numbers. It'll give you a better idea of what you like and what you don't like. According to the meter, I should like these pickups. But that doesn't mean that I necessarily will. All right, we need to check the weight on the guitar. We need to take this off to check the weight. Here's my scale. Pound ounces. This particular specimen is coming in at 7 pounds, 1.7 ounces. We want to change the units to grams. That gives us 3,222 grams. You know, something I forgot to check earlier, guys, was the string action height. Here I'm trying not to miss anything, and I almost forgot to give you the string action height. So depending on which gauge this is, we'll start there. This is a metric gauge, so we'll give you the metric at the 12th. Wow. At the 12th, we have 2.5. It's actually a little higher than that. Millimeters. On the high E, probably 2.20. Let's switch to Imperial. For those people that like Imperial. At our 12th, we are all the way up in China at probably 0.150. It's way up there. Our high E is set at 0.085. Woof! That's probably the worst action height of any guitar that we've ever had on the channel. That's bad. I can already see that the bridge is doing this. So with the floating bridge, when the bridge starts to come forward and you're set to 440, usually the saddle sits this way. The bridge plate's here and the saddle sits here. So as the bridge comes up, your action height increases. So at 440, that is our action height. I'm gonna retune it down a half step later. That'll help. But it is definitely, I mean, is it perfect, the bridge there? No, but it's not like it's doing this number. It would help, but it's still not going to fix the action height, if that makes sense. So we have one last thing to do, guys. I want to open the back cover. I am not taking the pick guard off this guitar and looking at the electronics since it has a top. It's just going to be a little too much for us to do. We do try to do pretty thorough reviews. It has strings on the guitar. I don't want to try to pry the pick guard back and look in there. But we will pull the back cover off the guitar, look at the routing. That usually will give us a pretty good idea of how the CNC was set up at the factory. If it's nasty looking routing in here, odds are it's nasty looking routing on the top. So let's open it up and see. This screw right here is stuck to the little plastic piece. If you're familiar with our Discord channel, you would have probably seen pictures of a guitar that I have here doing service work on. It looks like someone threw sand in the finish. That's what we got in here. You know, I'm not going to say that's particulate. At this point, it's got to be something they're putting in the paint on these pockets. I can't imagine that, but I don't know if you guys can see that or not in there. But it looks like someone threw sand in the paint. Do you see that? No. But if it's particulate, take 5 seconds and blow the guitar out. It's all in the flat spots in here as well. I do see some compound. There's so much grit in the finish in the pocket. I couldn't. I do see some step overs through the massive amount of built up poly and finish. Does it really matter? I guess it doesn't. And they have chose to put all 3 springs to the center of the claw. The claw itself looks to be of decent metal quality. Sometimes on these inexpensive guitars, they'll put a very thin claw on it. This claw here does seem to be a decent gauge of metal. Looking at the solder joint here, granted that's a big piece of metal to get hot, but it was not at temperature. There's no sheen whatsoever, and I can see where they struggled to get it to bond. I don't think it would fail, but it was definitely not at temperature. We do have a decent sized block though on the tremolo. And the wire does run up and around and through the side there. I'm going to say it's so-so on the inside. They definitely did not clean the guitar out. And I know everyone's already saying it doesn't matter, I don't see it back there anyway. You're right, you don't. But for me, I like looking at stuff like that. It gives me an idea of how they're treating the instrument as it's going down the production line. Odds are the upper cavity will be the exact same way. If you go to our Discord and you look at guitar and equipment, last week I posted some pictures of a Schecter that I have here doing some routing work on, and its routed cavities were just like this. So at this price point, it's as good as an import Schecter. If you want to qualify it that way. All in all, I think the finish on the guitar is good. The guitar is in dire need of a setup. It really needs a setup. Alright, let's actually get a sound out of this guitar. We are going to play it through this little Yamaha amp. It is a budget guitar, so I'm not going to play it through a $8,000 guitar rack mount system, because I've had people say, well, you're playing a $200 guitar through a $10,000 amplifier. There's a couple ways to look at that. Your guitars has something to do with your sound, but your amplifier is very important. How something will sound really depends on the amplifier itself. It really makes that much difference. So since we're using a modeler, there is no amp in the room. I have to use my headphones, and if this pops, I apologize. That's not a good start. hear a lot of noise. I've been having issues with my Mackie, so I'm not sure if that's in the Mackie itself. Doesn't sound happy. It is definitely already out of tune. Well, the advantage to a live review, you guys get to see the frustration. Let's tune it up again. And I am going to grab a different cord just to see if maybe there's an issue with that cord. I want to cover all my bases. I don't want to say there's something wrong with the guitar and it was a cord. So let me grab a cord. Second chord. I think we had a bad chord. Alright, that's our clean channel, so we definitely want to get an idea what it sounds like clean. That's our single coil. This should be our humbucker. You have to turn it down. There's definitely a gain difference. pucker. Let's move up to our second position. Like that sound. Let's switch it to single single. Not too shabby. Center position. And the magical fourth position. The fourth position sounds nice, but it has it's a very low output. Here's our fifth position. Really struggling with the extremely high accent height. All in all, I'd say the clean sounds pretty good. Let's go up to crunch. We're just going to start right in our fifth position because I'm lazy. I don't want to flip the switch down. That's awful, isn't it? Fourth position. Fourth position seems to kind of fall apart a little bit on crunch. Single notes sound all right. I'm checking my clipping. No red lights. Let's go to our third position. Not too sure on these. Here's our second position. Yeah, it still has that and you hear that when you roll the volume. What brightness it has. It does have a decent, nice gradual roll-off. Not sure on that. Let's go to our bridge. I'm not too sure what you guys are hearing. But I'm not liking the pickups. We're going to switch right over to our our special channel. This is where I normally keep my amp, and I do that way I can hear different guitars. This guitar just sounds muddy to my ears. It doesn't break up well at all. If you watch the channel, all I did there was change the master setting. But this is the exact same channel that I play all my other guitars through. And if you don't watch the channel, you can't hear the difference. But if you do watch the channel, it seems to do well on single notes. But it's very dark and muddy sounding. Alright, let's do our typical 80s hair thing. Let's try to really EQ that out. So I am changing the EQ. Yeah, it's very dark sounding. It's easier. You start boosting the treble. I'm gonna say the pickups aren't too good. Let's try our third position. course, it's out of tune. Well, you kind of hear it. Anytime that I've really swung my mid and I've really swung the treble, and I don't do that on any of my other guitars. Let's see how far out of tune it is. You guys know that normally I can get through a review, and I usually play a lot harder than I'm playing this guitar. It's dropped a whole half step. So the guitar is definitely doing a lot of moving. It's not holding tune. And the pickups are muddy. See, that's what scares me right there. I have turned the E probably an eighth of a turn, and it has made no change in the scope of my tuner. You start to pick up on things when you review a lot of guitars. I'm just not getting a warm, fuzzy feeling from this guitar. It's like it wants to fight you. If you play it hard, it goes out of tune. It's taking all my effort to play like that. The action is so high on the guitar. I think we've heard enough. This jack down here also. Yeah, see that? The jack is also loose. Well, people come here for honest reviews, and I don't want to start changing the channel now. I think I've already said this. I don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling from this guitar. I don't. It if I it, one it, the guitar is in dire need of a setup. Um, would it play better in a drop tuning? Probably. Is it going to play a lot better? Probably not. um, it, uh, it needs a setup really bad out of the box. You're not. It's kind of unfair for me to say Donner because I don't know what was done to the guitar prior to me receiving it. The way I'm receiving it, this guitar is in dire need of a setup. Um, I would never take this guitar out and play out with it. There's no way I would take this guitar out and play an open mic with it. The way it sits right now. There's something going on with the jack. It should not encapsulate the cord like that. You shouldn't have to struggle. There's a difference between a pure tone jack, it's locking it, and it's a secure unplug. This it's holding it, but then it just there's something going on in there. It's something with the jack. I'm plus it's loose. It needs to be tightened. I would say the electronics are a little muddy on it. I guess my final thoughts on it. Not as good as Firefly. It is not. I think the Firefly pickups are better. I think the feel of the frets of the Firefly is better. Is this better than the Leo James? No. It has about the same amount of fret issues, even though the Leo James had low frets. You got to refret it. This still had 5 or 6 spots with bad frets where it needs to be worked on. The Leo James out of the box played better than this guitar and sounded better out of the box than this guitar. The overall finish on the guitar, though, is very good. I think if you can get this guitar at a good price on Amazon, count on giving it a setup and count on putting electronics in the guitar. If you don't mind putting electronics in the guitar and giving the guitar a really good setup and cleaning up some of the fretwork here on the side, it's a beautiful instrument. I just can't say that you're going to buy this guitar, plug it in, and be happy with it out of the box. I wish I could get one directly from Amazon. That way I would know if this guitar has been altered from its original form. I mean, I can detune it. How much would you guys like to detune it? I mean, like I said, I don't think even taking it down a whole step is going to make that much difference in the action height. It will help it. I'm not going to say that it's not going to help it. But if I push down on the bridge parallel, and that's how it's supposed to be set up. That bridge is supposed to be parallel to the body. It's still way off the neck. Yeah. Again, this guitar is one guitar. I want everyone to know that this is just one guitar. And this channel is about product information. If you bought this guitar and you had a completely different experience than the one that I just had, I'm going to need you to post down below. Tell me you bought this guitar off Amazon and it come out of the box and the action height was right. It holds tune and it's not muddy. It sounds great. I need that group of people to post. Did you buy it and you had no problems with it? Okay. I don't have any problems with the fit and finish on the guitar. I have a problem with the electronics and the setup of the instrument. The electronics, in my opinion, even though the pickups read decent, they just don't sound clear. They're very muddy and very dark sounding. If you like a darker sounding pickup, you might like them. But with distortion, they get muddy pretty quick. Not very much clarity to them. Issue with the jack. I guess that's all I can really say. I want to also say, if you bought it and you had the exact same experience that I just had, the guitar will not stay in tune. I'm not going to say the strings are stretching because this guitar had been played previously. So these strings should be stretched in. Okay? They shouldn't still be stretching. The issue is in the nut, the way the nut's cut. It's not cut right, and it needs a setup, period. But if you had the exact same experience, you bought it and it needs a setup out of the box, and you were expecting it to have muddy pickups, I need you guys to post down below too. That, like, again, it's about product information. People clicking on this video wanting to know more about this Donner. That information is down there for them. I don't want them solely doing their research and looking at this one video and going, oh wow, he had a bad experience with it. I need people to post. I've heard good things about this company. I'm just not seeing it with this one, the way it's set up and the way it sounds. I hate to say that. But the good news is it is definitely fixable. This guitar has the ability to be set up well, and I think it will play well. The frets feel good. There's nothing wrong with the feel of the top of the frets. It just has a very poor setup on it. Makes it very hard to play. And I think that needs some electronics work. And again, I am one person and this is one guitar. So I need everyone that's bought this instrument to kindly post below and let me know what your experience is. We're here to do honest reviews, and this is the most honest review that I can give on this instrument. And I guess we're done, guys. This is a live review. I wish every review went great, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes we just have to say what we feel. And I feel that if you're going to spend that kind of money, I have bought better instruments at that price point than this particular instrument. Now, Steve, you got it for free, man. So you are 100% set. Give this thing a setup. Put some decent electronics in it. You're going to have almost no money in it. And I think you're going to have a good instrument. But you're going to have to give it a setup, and you're going to have to put some electronics in this thing. Please post below. And if you like these kind of videos, these super highly detailed reviews where we check everything, I need you to subscribe. Go down and hit the like button. It takes a lot of time to do these reviews, and hopefully the information that I'm putting out on these guitars, hopefully it's helpful. We're not a demo channel here. Don't have any interest in being a demo channel. We're here to do honest reviews of products, and I want people to come in and know that they can count on the channel to do that. Anyway, guys, please subscribe, hit the like button, check out the Discord server. I'm sure there's a link in the chat somewhere below. And yes, we are going to do our standard stream tomorrow night. And I want to thank everybody for coming and watching this extremely long video on this Donner. And again, I want to give one last shout out to Fret Not. Cool guys over there. I don't know them personally, but a channel that gives a guitar away every week to a subscriber, that's pretty cool.
Do a close-up of the front.
Here's a close-up of the front of the guitar. It's a beautiful guitar, guys. It's just in need of a setup. It needs a good setup, good fret end dressing, and some decent electronics. You know, if you take this apart, there might be something obvious in here. It could be a cap. You know, before I say you've got to change these pickups, the first thing I would do is I would check the cap on these pickups. Maybe they've just put a way out of whack value cap on it and it's dumping all the treble to ground. I've seen it before. So before I say, yeah, it needs pickups, I think the value of that cap should be checked because it's doing something funny. It has a funny sound. It could be the cap. It could be, since it is a humbucker single, maybe they're using two 250 pots. You know, a lot of people run 500 and 250s. So, you know, you've got a combination thing going on there. So you might have to play around with that cap to get it in the sweet spot. These are just my opinions, guys. But that would be the first thing I would check. If you have this guitar and you think it sounds a little dark and muddy, I would check the value of the caps first before you invest in pickups. Maybe play around with that. And if you still don't like it, sure, maybe put a little money in some pickups. And then while you're in there, put a pure tone jack in it. And, you know, do a little hot rodding to it. A lot of people buy these guitars just for that purpose, just to make them their own, if that makes sense. Put whatever pickups they want on them and make it their guitar. But doing all that tuning, I did not feel anything wrong with the tuners. The tuners feel decent. Okay, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I know it's not our standard night, and hopefully we won over some new viewers since it's a night that we don't normally do these highly detailed videos. Again, go to the main channel, check out some of our other reviews, go to Discord, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow night for another live stream. Thanks, guys. This guitar plays like